Hello, my name is Emily. As a 28-year-old born into a world where silver spoons were only the beginning, my life has been a voyage of contrasts. As a youngster, I used to enjoy exploring our house, where every room told a tale of prosperity and accomplishment. I was surrounded by luxury as my parents, self-made cleaning industry titans, took care of me. My father entered my room one evening as the sun was setting and cast a golden glow over it. "Emily, how do you like your new room?" he inquired, casting a quick glance at the opulent decor. "I'm in love with it, Dad," I said, turning in my chair to look at him. "It's like a princess's chamber." Sitting next to me, he laughed and said, "You deserve it, dear, but remember, true value isn't in these things, it's in your heart and mind." My mother came in, her grace equal to the grandeur of the space. "Definitely," she said. "We want you to have the best, Emily, but never forget the importance of kindness and intelligence." "I won't forget, Mom. I'll be smart, kind, and can I still enjoy my beautiful room?" I nodded, comprehending what they were saying, but yet in awe of the material world. My father gave my hair a loving ruffle while they both chuckled. "Of course, darling. Enjoy your gifts, but also make your own path. We've worked hard for this, and one day you'll understand the effort behind every shiny surface." My life lessons came from those evenings, which combined luxury, education, and love. I had no idea that the most important lessons were still to come. The calm areas of the library were always a source of comfort for me, since they allowed my thoughts to stray into the fields of strategy and mathematics. I found my genuine love there, among the muted murmurs of wisdom and the smell of ancient books. One afternoon, my friend Catherine interrupted me gently and said, "Emily, you're always buried in these books. Are you never tired?" Glancing up, I grinned subtly. When you're doing something you love, it doesn't become old. It resembles solving a puzzle. Every issue is a riddle that has to be solved. Catherine sat next to me, seeming interested. "What, then, is the enigma for today?" "It's an issue from the forthcoming Olympiad in mathematics," I said, gesturing to the intricate calculations scrawled in my notepad. "It's quite a challenge." Leaning closer, she looked over the symbols and numbers. She chuckled, saying, "Looks like an alien language to me." I laughed. "I guess it does, but once you see it, there's a rhythm and a pattern that makes sense." Catherine laughed and shook her head. "You are the strategic genius. I'll leave the deciphering to you." I was having a chat when my math tutor, Mr. Allen, arrived. "Are you set for our meeting, Emily?" "Yes, Mr. Allen," I excitedly said. He saw the issue with my laptop. Getting ready for the Olympics? Emily, you really are gifted at this. I've brought over some extra items that might be useful." I was excited as we descended into the realm of theories and statistics. The issues were difficult, but I loved the challenge and used my imagination to navigate the options like a dancer doing a difficult performance. As our lesson came to an end, Mr. Allen said, "You have an exceptional mind, Emily. You have amazing strategic and pattern-spotting abilities. You'll do admirably in the tournament." At the praise, I reddened. "Thank you, Mr. Allen. All I want to do is strive to please my parents." "You've already shown that you're passionate and dedicated," he reassured me. "Just keep in mind that the trip and the learning process are just as important as victory." Catherine nodded to me in approval as he walked away. "Emily, you're going to ace this Olympiad. I am aware of that." Excited and determined at the same time, I closed my notepad. The Olympiad was more than simply a competition. It was a representation of the strategist I was growing into and a monument to my journey. My parents started preparing me for the family company as soon as I could read and write. After supper, our living room, with its lofty ceilings and luxurious carpets, frequently became an unplanned classroom. Dad laid up graphs and charts on sheets of paper on the coffee table one evening. With a tone that blended pride and severity, he said, "Emily, it's time you understand the foundation of our success." I traced the lines and symbols with my eyes as I sat next to him. "These are impressive, Dad, but they look like puzzles waiting to be solved." He laughed. He pointed to a line graph and said, "In a way, they are. Business is about solving puzzles, finding patterns in the chaos. This here shows our growth over the past 5 years. Mom came to sit with us, a warm cup of tea in her graceful hands. Your father and I built this from scratch. We want you to know every part of it, not just the shiny exterior. I took in their remarks and nodded. I want to learn, truly, but it's a bit overwhelming. Dad put his hand on my shoulder. We'll take it one step at a time. Let's start with the basics of financial literacy. Understanding money is crucial. Softly said Mom. And remember, it's not just about making profits. It's about the people we employ, the lives we impact. I could relate to what they said, and it made the duty I was going to take on much more weight. I discovered this was more than just a business as I spent hours going over balance sheets and business strategies. It was a legacy, a reflection of my parents' perseverance and ambition. One night, I murmured to myself, more than to them, "I won't let you down." Mom said, "We know you won't, dear," in a confident and loving tone. "You're going to write the next chapter of this legacy." I was filled with resolve as I saw their eager eyes. I was prepared to take on this task and become the heir they saw me as. As I began to understand the intricacies of our family company and felt prepared to carry on my parents' heritage, I had no clue that a personal tragedy would soon cast a shadow over my life and permanently alter my course. I can still clearly recall that day when everything seemed to stop. It was one of those cool fall mornings when the air is just beginning to turn into winter, yet still seems warm from summer. My father's voice interrupted the stillness while I was in the yard watching the dew on the roses. His tone was solemn, unexpectedly so. "Emily, can you come inside for a moment?" With a racing heart, I rushed inside. I found Dad in the living room, his hands shaking and his face pallid. "What's wrong, Dad?" I inquired. He inhaled deeply. His voice shaking, he said, "It's your mother. She passed away last night. Breast cancer." I was struck by the words like a freight train. With tears welling up in my eyes, I stumbled. "No, that can't be. We were going to see her this weekend. She was getting better." Dad shook his head slowly, his face wet with tears. "I'm sorry, Emily. I thought she was too, but it was too late." The days that followed were a haze of rites and grief. There were so many people I hardly knew during the sorrowful funeral. As individuals expressed their sympathies, I stood there, paralyzed. A few weeks after the burial, I came upon Dad on the balcony one evening, looking off into the distance. "Dad?" I hesitantly walked up to him. He remained still. "I miss her so much, Emily. She was my everything." With just a whisper, I said, "I know, Dad. I miss her too." Red in the eyes, he immediately turned to face me. "You look so much like her, Emily. It's both a blessing and a curse." I was at a loss for words. Too genuine, too raw was the suffering. We stood there silently, feeling overwhelmed by the weight of our loss. Dad's anguish persisted for months, but it didn't lessen. I realized he wasn't in his room one morning. I called his name and went through the house in a panic. Then the unimaginable occurred. He was standing dangerously near to the edge of the roof when I found him. I ran to Dad and cried, "Dad, no!" However, it was already too late. I watched him step off the edge as I got to the rooftop. Time paused as, terrified, I raced to the edge of the precipice. I shouted out, "Dad!" with tears running down my cheeks. However, he was vanished, engulfed by the harsh earth underneath. I was overcome with sadness after my father and mother passed away tragically, and I had a hard time adjusting to a world that had abruptly changed. In this furnace of grief, I gradually started to put myself back together, turning my suffering into a resolve to carry on their corporate heritage. I recall sitting in my office in the faint light, bearing a tremendous burden of pain and duty. The family firm, which was now all mine, appeared to be an enormous task. My fingertips followed the contours of the firm ledger, a subtle reminder of the legacy left behind. My longtime friend and confidant Catherine softly came in. "Emily, you're hungry," she remarked, setting a sandwich down on my desk. I forced a grin as I looked up. "Thanks, Catherine. I can't focus." Everything reminds me of them. With worried eyes, she took a seat. I know it's hard, Emily, but you're not alone. We'll get through this together. Although the hurt was lessened by her words, it was still sharp. I just don't know if I can do this, Catherine. Run the business. Be what my parents wanted me to be. She persisted, saying, You're stronger than you think. Your parents prepared you for this. They believed in you, and so do I. Her confidence in me kindled a tiny spark of resolve. More to myself than to her, I whispered, I need to make them proud, don't I? Yes, without a doubt. And you will, Catherine answered. But first, you need to start taking care of yourself again. That's what they would have wanted. With a steady nod, I expressed my growing resolve, saying, You're right. I'll start by going through these accounts, setting a new direction for the company. It's time to rebuild, not just the business, but myself, too. Catherine gave me a tight squeeze. That's the spirit, and I'll be here, every step of the way. Since taking over the family firm, I've experienced a constant sense of purpose. My judgments were now repeated by the workplace, which used to be my father's realm. My assistant Mark said, Emily, the projections for next quarter are ready, passing her a stack of documents. I looked at them, thinking quickly. With my eyes fixed on the graphs, I questioned, These numbers? We can do better. Have we considered expanding into the newer markets? Mark paused. It's risky, Emily. Your parents never ventured there. I raised my head and saw his eyes. But I'm not my parents, am I? Set up a meeting with the team. We need a strategy to break into these markets. Days went into weeks as we planned. I challenged the group, asking for bravery and inventiveness. In the middle of a late-night meeting, the unexpected breakthrough occurred. One of the senior managers, Lisa, said to Emily, What if we incorporate eco-friendly practices into our services? It's a growing trend. Curious, I leaned forward. Elaborate, Lisa. I saw a vision as she was explaining. Instead of merely growing the sector, we might transform it. Let's do it. But we need to act fast. Be the first to hit the market with this approach, I said. The months that followed were quite busy. The new strategy's implementation was thrilling yet difficult. The day we introduced our new services, I got an adrenaline rush. This was a statement rather than just a commercial decision. The outcomes exceeded all of our expectations in terms of volume. Our customer base expanded, earnings skyrocketed, and the industry was abuzz with our creativity. I couldn't help but smile at the team's enthusiasm at a board meeting. We've not only met our targets, but exceeded them. This success is yours as much as mine. Later, with a grin on his face, Mark came up to me. You did it, Emily. Your parents would have been proud. Staring out of the window, I could see the city below me. I hope so, Mark. But this is just the beginning. We're going to take this company to heights they never imagined. After a series of fruitful business meetings, I found myself in London, a city full of prospects and an opportunity to broaden our company's global reach. I had no idea that this vacation would also unintentionally change the trajectory of my personal life by bringing me to a momentous encounter in the foggy streets of this medieval city. It seems like yesterday when I think back to the day I met Tom. Though the streets of London were teeming with activity, I could not hear anything. I was sitting on a convenience store step, looking at the sky, lost and without a working phone. A voice said, "Excuse me," interrupting my dream. "Are you all right?" When I looked up, I saw a man with a soft smile and friendly eyes. "I'm all right. I'm just a little lost," I stammered back. He held out his hand and said, "I'm Tom. Can I help?" There felt to be something unusual about Tom. His grin was sincere, and his presence was consoling. He guided me back to the hotel as we conversed. I felt like I connected with him for the first time in a long time since he was easy to talk to. "Here's my number," Tom remarked as we approached the hotel. "In case you need anything else?" I grinned and said, "Thank you, Tom," with warmth in my heart. "I just might take you up on that." The days that followed in London flew by. Tom and I got together often, joking and telling stories as we explored the city. There was a smooth, easy connection. However, I was aware at all times that I was concealing my genuine identity by constructing a web of falsehoods. One evening, as we strolled down the Thames, Tom said to me, "So, you work at this hotel?" "Yes." With a sinking heart, I lied. "Just a regular job." He answered, "I like that," with sincerity. "You're grounded, real." His remarks hurt, serving as a reminder of the front I was keeping up. My emotions became stronger the longer we were together. Even though I knew I was lying, the idea of losing Tom was too much to bear. I was lost in my own maze, and every turn took me more and farther from reality. "I have to go back to the U.S. soon," I murmured one evening, the truth partially spilling out. Tom gave me a sorrowful but understanding gaze as he stared at me. "I'll miss you, Emily." "And I'll miss you," I said, as I became aware that this was more than just a game. I realized then that I had to choose between facing the reality and carrying on with the deception. In any case, I was certain that things would change. I promised Tom that I would keep in touch following our chance encounter in London, but a part of me missed our bond that had developed overnight. I had no idea how quickly our brief meeting would develop into a shared existence under one roof, and how it would intertwine our fates in ways I never would have imagined. Tom has a side that I was unaware of until I moved in with him. Once a haven, our flat became a battlefield of spoken grievances and quiet judgments. The anxiety boiled out one evening when I was cooking dinner. With a swirl of the spaghetti sauce, I said, "Tom, can we talk?" He scarcely looked up from his phone. "About what, Emily?" "I feel like we're drifting apart," I whispered, scarcely raising my voice above a whisper. "About us." With his eyes fixed on his screen, Tom sneered. "Drifting apart? Emily, you're imagining things." I put down the wooden spoon, my resentment building. "No, I'm not. You're always distant, absorbed in your work. You don't even look at me anymore." At last, he turned to face me, his countenance icy. "What do you want me to say, Emily? That everything's fine? Because it's not. Ever since we got married, you've changed." I questioned, feeling a knot in my gut develop. "Changed? How?" "You're not the woman I fell in love with. You're always busy with your work, always calculating," he said. I became quite angry. "Calculating? Tom, I'm trying to keep us afloat. I'm working hard for both of us." With a start, he got up, his chair scuffing the floor. "No, you're working for yourself, Emily. You don't care about this marriage, about me." I argued. "That's not true." But he didn't appear to hear me. He grabbed his coat and said, "I need space, Emily. I need to figure things out." My heart began to race as I said, "Where are you going?" With those words, he left, leaving me alone with the sound of the boiling sauce and my own racing thoughts. Away from here, away from you. I need to clear my head. I was struck by the revelation as I sat there. Not only was our marriage falling apart, but it was completely destroyed. The toughest aspect was that I was unsure if it was still worthwhile to save. After our tumultuous marriage, I was suddenly surprised to learn that I was pregnant. Our relationship was starting to fall apart, so when this news arrived, I started to worry about our family's future. In the middle of this emotional upheaval, I started to direct my attention and energy into a detailed strategy that would settle scores in the professional sphere, where Tom and I had inadvertently turned into rivals, as well as ensure my child's future. A tiny, content smile played on my lips as I sat in my office, reading over reports and spreadsheets. Every figure and statistic served as evidence of the covert, calculated battle I fought Tom. Catherine came in and looked at the papers that were all over my desk. "Are you actually following through on this?" I raised my head, my eyes icy. At each and every stage, Catherine. "He must understand the repercussions of misjudging me." She moaned, "But it's really intimate." I reclined in my seat. "Catherine, business is always personal. Recall that." Months passed into weeks, and everything went according to plan. I quietly put pressure, and Tom's business began to suffer. I stood by and watched, oblivious to my role in his demise as he struggled with every obstacle. Then came the day when, feeling dejected, he entered my office looking for a job in the business he was unaware I owned. He was told to go to the head's office by the receptionist in order to make his appointment. His footsteps were getting closer, and I could hear them carrying a mixture of despair and hope. A phantom of the guy I knew was there when the door opened. There was a moment of astonished quiet as our eyes locked. "Emily?" His tone was a mixture of bewilderment and incredulity. "Yes, Tom," I said coolly, keeping my gaze fixed on him. Greetings from my universe. However, I had thought... He trailed off as the revelation hit him. "You did this? Everything?" I got up and turned to face him, stepping around my desk. "I built this empire, Tom, and I kept it safe from anyone who may want to steal it from me." A mixture of emotions, including embarrassment, realization, and rage, distorted his face. "Was this an act of retaliation? Regarding the separation?" "Not just for the divorce, Tom." I nodded. "For underestimating me and believing you were in charge of me." As though he was seeing the workplace for the first time, he surveyed it. "I was unaware of this," I replied in a quiet but forceful voice. "No, you didn't. And you made the biggest error there." With stuttering steps, Tom turned to walk away. "I never knew you, Emily," he said, pausing as he got to the door and turning to face me again. I said to the empty room, "No, you never did," as I watched him go. I felt a wave of closure. I stood amid the remains of a war I had won, but at a cost that weighed severely on my heart, following my well-planned retaliation against Tom. My path of self-redemption and focusing on the principles I wanted to instill in my pregnant child began at this critical crossroads, which signaled the start of a deep personal transformation. As I sat in my office, staring out at the skyline of the city, I thought back on how I got here. The only sound in the silent room was my fingertips tapping lightly on the wood desk. My trusty friend and coworker Catherine entered the room, interrupting my thoughts. "Emily, how are you doing?" Catherine questioned, worry etched on her countenance. I forced a grin. "Yes, I'm simply considering everything. Life, you know." Catherine pulled up a chair. "You've experienced a great deal, but have a look at what you've created," she said, waving. "It's amazing." "I know, but at what cost, Catherine?" I nodded. There are moments when I question whether my unrelenting drive has cost me anything. "You fulfilled your obligation," Catherine comforted. "And you've consistently conducted business with integrity. That is the important thing. But now that I'm a mother, my role has changed." I lamented. "My kid needs me to set an example for her. I want her to understand the importance of sincerity and honesty rather than simply commercial acumen and cold calculations." Catherine leaned forward. "Emily, you serve as an inspiration. You are modeling for her self-advocacy, tenacity, and strength." I took a time to consider it. "Catherine, I want her to grow from my faults as well. I want her to know that trust, not trickery or power struggles, is the foundation of a healthy relationship." Catherine grinned. "Emily, she will, since you are there to mentor her." I got up and moved toward the window. Hopefully, her upbringing should be in an environment where she is appreciated and loved for who she is rather than what she owns. Catherine came to the window with me. "Emily, she will. You will see to it that it happens." I cast my gaze below to the humming metropolis, a representation of my victories and setbacks. "For both of us, Catherine, it's a new chapter." Catherine touched my shoulder with a kind hand. "And it will be a fantastic one. You'll discover." Standing there, I understood that although I could not undo the past, I could create a better future for myself, my daughter, and everyone else whose lives I had impacted. It was time to leave a legacy of compassion as well as achievement.